Okay, hi, I am Jon Merrifield, and this is the Austin Adobe Users Group. And we meet, correct me if I get any of this wrong, on the second Thursday of every month.
That's correct.
And then we have presentations on all kinds of different Adobe related things and material. This one, really, instead of it being specific about certain applications, it's going to be just about an overall sort of workflow and approach. And I teach, when people work with me, because this is what I do for a living. I use Adobe tools in my living, which is creating videos for my clients. And there's a wide variety of the types of clients they are. And so there's a certain workflow and approach and an organization process that I use on purpose. And this is the thing, when I teach this too. So I'm going to just talk about it for a minute instead of demonstrating. But there's a reason I didn't start out this way. So my saying is brush your teeth. And by that, I mean, if you have a to-do list for tomorrow, the first thing you're going to do is not even on it, and that's brush your teeth. But you still, whether it's on your list or not, you brush your teeth every day. So my thing is, when I'm doing these projects, really specifically in Premiere and After Effects, I'll talk about that more in a second, why I spend time every day, every moment organizing. I organize everything in a project folder. I'm going to show you kind of what I do exactly. Before I ever work on anything, I'm organizing and placing files, where do they go and all that stuff. And then I do it the same for every project. And the reason is the only thing I like doing is working on the material. That's the only thing I like doing. How does this look? Oh, that's cool. Maybe I should do this. And I'm working, I'm involving, I'm being the creative thing, which usually, everybody I know that uses Adobe tools is from the creative side of the fence. And so oftentimes perhaps organization doesn't come natural to the creative types. Perhaps, I don't know. But I've forced it upon myself. And that's because I don't want to look for anything. I don't want to find anything. I don't want to do any of that ever. All I want to do is the work, the fun part. Ooh, that looks good. But, if I don't know where the material is or any of that, then I'm going to have to stop and look and find. And now it's not linked and all that. And so that's why I'm making a deal or a whole presentation just about organizing our files. And the other thing is that I mentioned a second ago with the Premiere and the After Effects is that unlike Photoshop, although you can set it up so that it's linked, but unlike Photoshop standard, none of the files, even though you import files into Adobe Premiere, let's say, none of them are imported into Premiere. They're not part of the project. They're only linked. And so if you look at your project size, it's still only, so many K, because the project's just a little bit of data and it's not any of the footage or any of that. And so I'm going to expound on that even further. So I'll show some work I did too recently. Recently I worked in these social media commercials for DirecTV. And when it was all shot green screen. I'll go ahead and share the screen now. It was all shot green screen. And can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll show
Looks
you that.
pretty green.
Yeah, I'll show you the cut too. So it's something like, basically it was like this. I supervised the shoot all in remote because it was shot in LA, but then the finished piece, I'll just go ahead and show you. So here's one of the rough cuts. They were in different format sizes depending on, where it aired. So this is the rough cut.
I'm Lou Young. We're with DirecTV, leader of
hear
sports
that?
on game day.
And I'm Travis
Mhm.
Kelce.
We're gonna play a little game of Guess the Celeb.
Oh, you got a good one.
I don't think you're gonna get yours.
Okay,
Is this an
so
athlete?
you get the idea, and it was just an incredible amount of footage. And then the finish is, I'll just show you the one by one. Here's the finish.
I'm Lou Young. We're with DirecTV, leader of sports
So all
on
that
game
set
day.
behind them and all that's
We're gonna play
obviously
a little game of
fake.
Guess the Celeb.
And if you look, sometimes it tracks with the camera, so it all had to be tracked.
Is this an
So
athlete?
Not even close. Am I?
that was a fun project, and we had just lucked out because right after that is when he became so famous with all that Taylor Swift stuff. So I had to be organized with it. I had to buy even extra external hard drives just so I could have access to 6 terabytes of footage all at once. I didn't, my media drives in my workstation weren't really ready. So in that thought, Adobe, they put out these pages, Premiere Pro system requirements. In addition to this one, they have one for After Effects, same thing. And it shows you the minimum. This one's for Windows, minimum and recommended. I'm going to say, unless you like punching yourself in the face, whatever you can do the recommended stuff. And really, it's just how much RAM is there and all that kind of thing. Now, one thing they say is install a fast internal SSD for app installation and an additional high-speed device for media. And there's another place down here where it says another drive for caching. So that's Windows. And then there's a Mac one down here too, or wherever it is.
John, I'm not able to see the URL. Oh, now you just moved the screen so I can see the URL. Let's put that in the chat room, please.
Sure. Let me just see here. Let's get rid of this. And
does every product, Adobe product, have a systems requirement page that we could find?
Yep, it does. And if you just type in like Photoshop system requirements, the page will.
Right.
So what I do is I have a system drive that runs my app. And hello. And let's see here. Let me get the chat out of the way. I have a system drive that runs the app, and then I have media drives that just hold the footage or the project folders, which I'm going to go through here in a second. And then I have a cache drive or drives just for the caching that Premiere Pro and After Effects does. And what caching is I don't have anything set up here, but so this is just a blank comp. What caching is, this is After Effects and Premiere, both of them, they like store temporarily every frame. Like let's say this layer of video had on it color correction and a blur. So for every frame, it has to, process and do that blur processing and color processing. And then so what Premiere Pro or After Effects does, then it caches those frames, stores them temporarily. So then that way it can play them back in a smooth fashion. So it's best, and according to Adobe, if you have different drives for each of those. Right, my system's on one drive, my media is on another drive, and my caching is on another drive. Now you probably can't see this with the camera, but I have 2 drives attached to my Mac right here. Like this is my attached project drive where it has the media, and then I have a drive that's for nothing but caching. And that helps my system remain fast. Although nowadays the internal SSDs are so fast, perhaps it doesn't matter, but I think it may because of, I don't want to record and play back and process on the same drive all at the same time. It's like too many streams of data, or at least for me and my limited computer knowledge.
Are those hard drives or are they SSD drives?
They're SSDs.
Okay, which is more expensive, right? But they're faster, and you don't have to worry about them going bad as often.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just shocked how fast. Like this one I have here, it's 2 terabytes, and it runs at like 1,500 megabytes a second or more, I think now. And it was $80 or something.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's crazy. And in my big, I'm platform agnostic. You probably are too, Cornelius, because when you teach, you have to teach. Well, I don't know.
Right.
Right. Anyway, I'm teaching to both PCs and Macs at the same time.
Right, and I often say hit the Control or Command key and D. So that's the way I explain both of them at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. I do the same thing.
D.
Yeah, there you go. I do the same thing. Control Command. That's like a word all by itself.
Could you explain what you mean by setting up a caching drive?
Yeah. So what happens is both Premiere and After Effects, it'll process and, render a frame so there's no more processing, it's complete, and it's a temporary playback frame.
Mm-hmm.
So it records that somewhere, and I'm saying in the cache location, which it defaults to like your document drive if you don't set it up, and it's all in both.
So I'm asking, what do you do to set it up elsewhere? Can you demonstrate that
so
first?
it's both in preferences for both Premiere and it's actually here on it.
Wouldn't that be under, the app name?
Yeah, it's, I'm in PCs and Macs every day. There's a preference called Media Cache. This is Premiere Pro. And then you can, where is it? And mine's actually not going to the right place right now. I'm going to tell it to go to here. And so I can tell it where to go. I can also remove or delete the cache files, which is common. I'm going to do it right now. It might take a minute. And so if your program, again, specifically, I'm talking about Premiere and After Effects, starts acting up, what's wrong with this thing? It seems slow. It's locking up. It's hanging. I don't know. I can't. And you Google, hey, how do I fix a poor performance on my After Effects or Premiere Pro? You're going to say, hey, like delete your cache files or delete your, reset your system preferences or both of those things. And so, I must have had a lot in there. So it's taking forever to do this. I may end up having to stop it, but here's the thing. You don't lose anything. It doesn't, it'll like rebuild them as you need. It does everything in the background. So that's the benefit of it. It's basically stores rendered files so it can play back and you can see it in real time or high res without the playback locking up in either Premiere or After Effects. But they're also volatile in that if they're deleted, as soon as it needs to play them back again, it'll remake them.
Thanks for showing that.
So I don't know what's going on with that one. I'll skip that one. So that's a key thing. Now, one thing that I do is, because I've had this business like 14 years, so I have, quite a plethora of projects, right? And so now this is just some of my projects I keep on Dropbox, but in my Dropbox, or I have a project folder. So in my media drives, both on this remote thing and on my workstation desktop, I have project folders. So I have a number and a name. So here's a project folder, 0483, Alice Face, and the 10 folders that contain the materials, which is everything for that project. The first 6 are assets in, documents like scripts, audio record, footage. I even sometimes put, I even organize it further in there. Is it from the shoot? Is it stock footage? Was it a graphic asset? That kind of thing. Sometimes I just throw stuff in there. But so now if I look through my projects.
Can you explain your numbering?
This numbering over here, you mean?
No, in the first left column, you have numbers, 4-digit numbers.
Yeah. So when I started my company, I started, I worked with companies that often had bigger, longer numbers. They'd use the date backwards or that kind of thing. So I just wanted to use 4 numbers. So I started with my motocross race number, which was 301. So I've made it. Yeah, I've done a few since then.
So you just increment 1 each time.
Yeah.
And
so as I get a new one,
kind of
it'll
a
be
chronological
663.
list of what you've worked on.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's kind of made up project number and then the project name.
Right.
And if I look through these, and then I'm just going to do the arrow and go through these folders, and I can see here's this set of 10 folders that are in this project. If I go through these, it's the same exact set of 10 folders in every project.
Do you have
Exactly.
some kind of a template that automatically sets up those 10 folders?
The great question. Well, I have this right here. It's called 00 project template. And that's the latest version of Adobe stuff I'm on. So here's my template. So I get a new project. Let's say it's a new, whatever. I'll take this and immediately duplicate it. Right. And then it's trying to duplicate now. It's on. I got too many things going on. But I'll duplicate it and then rename it. This is now project 0700 and it's whatever the project name is.
I understand. Thank you.
And then if I'm going to bring in footage like into Premiere Pro or After Effects or Photoshop or anything, the first thing I do is I put it in my footage folder. Same thing if I get any graphics or stills or I get a reference, they send me a YouTube video, hey, make it look like this, whatever. File transfer is my code for, I have other artists working for me. So maybe there's 3 of them working and they're in different, states or whatever. And I may have them, transfer into this folder, but I'll have their name and their company or the date, that kind of thing, just so it's somewhat organized.
Do you always have those 10 folders, even if some are empty?
Yeah, I do the same exact thing. Even on my personal projects, I have the same exact thing. That way, I'm never, ever looking for anything.
It's consistent.
And then when the project's complete, this is the big one. When the project's complete, then I can easily archive the whole thing. I just archive Al's face, or I put it on a hard drive, or, if you work somewhere, maybe you have access to an Active Directory, or that kind of thing. Now, I don't really believe in remote projects because for video, it needs to be able to process and it has to be fast. So even if there's a app called Lucid, have you heard of that?
May have. Tell us more about it.
I use it all the time with, I have a company that I have contract with, and they have people in the East Coast and the West Coast, and the clients are in a different state, and there's editors in 2 different states. And we'll all work on the same project through Lucid, which is sort of like Dropbox. So all the files are remote, but they also copy them to your computer so you can use them as if they're local files. So that's really the only way that you can work remotely. Or for me, I have to have all the files local, otherwise it's just not fast enough. But that Lucid sort of allows you to do that. They won a bunch of awards at NAB and all that. Let's go look at that while we're talking about it. Lucid. Ugh. Okay. Well, I don't have it. One sec. Just bear with me. There it is. So I'm opening Lucid right now. It may be having trouble because I'm on Zoom. So there, now it's open. I have this folder, Lucid. That's the name of my client. This is all their projects. So right now I'm working on 2 projects for Elastic New York. And so there's the footage, that was shot. I gotta wait for a minute for it to update sometimes. But so this is these interviews basically.
I want to get
right. And, we're going to edit all these people together. And then there's these project files. So you can see like right here, those are my initials. right? So I built these talk tracks. This is my Premiere Pro project, which are just the rough cuts really of these 3 people they interviewed so they can, approve the content. And then we'll come back and do the multiple cameras and add B-roll and all that stuff. But so this Lucid, it works like Dropbox, where I have access to all the footage in all these projects, but it doesn't load them locally onto my computer until I go in and access them. But you can see it happens pretty fast because they were, here from before. So that is a cool service. They, like I said, they won a bunch of awards, Lucid Link.
Hmm.
Hold on 1 second. Okay. So that's one thing. Organize your projects. Then inside my projects, this is After Effects. When you first just open up an After Effects project, there's nothing in here. It's just blank, right? But I don't do that. I open up a template project. So every project has the same set of folders, or in Premiere, they're called bins, right? So these same set of folders in every project, right? There's nothing in this project except for this temp comp. This is just a 1920 by 1080 comp running at 23,976. And so that's my workflow when I actually get working. So then I go and I bring in all my footage and organize that in here and all that. And I also use plugins. There's a plugin called Watchtower. So I can tell, I'll find that and put a link in the chat too. So I can tell it to sync my footage folder here inside of After Effects with my footage folder in my project, right? So I have this project and I have footage in here. I can tell the footage in After Effects to sync to the footage folder in my project. So all I have to do once I put it in here, then it shows up here, which is a cool thing. Let me go get that. It's got a cool name, Knights of the Editing Table. Whoops. If he could type Knights of the Editing Table. Yeah. And he just has like 3 or 4 different kind of plugins and things. Some of them are really cool. Some are expensive. I bought Watchtower, which isn't cheap, but once you get using it, it's worth it. Excalibur is incredibly awesome for Premiere Pro, but here's Watchtower. So this is just something that helps me, and for me, it was just way worth the $40 because I'm going to do anything I can do to save a nanosecond. And by the way, if anybody's asking questions in the chat, I'm not really looking at it.
No, but they're just taking notes.
Oh, okay. What else? Okay. So now again, the only reason to do any of that is because I like the work. I hate the organizing part. So I become like this, this sort of Nazi with let's be organized. But it's only so I can save all my creative energy for the work, not for finding files and all that. So there you go. Hold on. I'm looking at some more stuff.
There's a question from Sherry. What does Watchtower do? Now, as I recall, you said it helps you synchronize the media from one app to another.
Yeah, like if I look at this is inside of After Effects. So if I look at my footage folder in After Effects, and I don't have anything in any of these, and these are a part of my template, so they always show up. Sometimes I just delete them because I don't really need them. But so if I want to import anything into my footage so I can use it, I would have to, try to import some footage. Let me just see if I can find something here. Okay, well, let's use this. So I had to import it, right? So, but what Watchtower does I don't have it set up right now on this system. What Watchtower does is it really syncs the any folder you want in your app, meaning After Effects or Premiere Pro. And I can use that Watchtower plugin and sync it to my project folder and my footage folder. So then as soon as I put any footage in my footage folder here, then it automatically shows up in my footage folder in my After Effects or Premiere Pro project, which is great.
Yeah, it's like omnipotence.
Yeah, but I worked for years and before that thing ever existed. And then I saw that, like, ooh, I need that, because if I could save a nanosecond, I'm going to do it. Right. Hold on 1 second here. I'm just going to go and see. I don't remember what I was going to in my notes. Oh yeah, so that too. So, a lot of, I'll show this here again in a second. I'm just talk about it. A lot of, like I said, I'm platform agnostic. So I work on both Macs and PCs. And one of my clients, they're all Mac. Fine, great. I don't want to live without my Mac, and that's what I'm doing this little thing on right now. But they'll name their projects, which are Camtasia projects, with special characters, like a $sign or a slash, which, you like for the internet, you can't and PC and Windows, you can't have file names that have special characters in there. And HTML is the same way. You can't have file names that have special characters in there. So that means sometimes I'll get a project from them and it has a $sign in the name and I can't open it on my PC workstation. So I have to rename it, or a couple of times I had to like open it up and on this Mac and then save it. Now I can open it up on my PC workstation. And I'm sure you've run across that before. Special characters. Okay. Execution workflow. Large files. Yeah. Yeah, that's my thing. Well, I'm sure, Cornelius, you've experienced where you're working on something and it's just like locked up and so slow and you don't know what's going on and you can't work.
Yeah, and that's why it's always good to have a fast computer if you're in this business.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why I have that Mac Daddy PC custom built thing in there, just so like I said, my joke is I punch myself in the face because I'm so frustrated.
Right.
I don't really, but yeah. And so one thing like you can do it, and I'll do it both in Premiere and After Effects, is not so much in After Effects sometimes because I want to see the full resolution, but that's proxies. Like I make proxies almost every project I work on.
Please explain what you mean by a proxy.
Yeah, I'm actually going to demonstrate it too.
Okay, good.
So, and here's the thing. This is good information. So you're aware of MP4s, movies, quick videos are often MP4s. Well, I love MP4s and I hate MP4s. Here's why. MP4 is a playback format. It'll play back great in small data on any computer everywhere. They're great. I use them all the time, every day. I hate MP4s. That's true too. I do. MP4s are 420. They're missing 25% of the color information. Also, MP4s there's a dynamic algorithm that allows them to compress the data so much. So what it does on every frame, it looks at the frame before and the frame after to decide which pixels or group of pixels it needs to change or not. Now that's great for playback, but in these in these video processing tools like Premiere Pro and After Effects, that processing slows everything down. It's got every frame. It's faster for Premiere Pro or After Effects to work with uncompressed 6K footage out of a ARRI Alexa than it is to work with MP4s out of your DSLR camera. It's harder to do that for these tools. They just can't. So, half the time I'll get material for my clients that is MP4s, which again, the other reason I hate is that they're like, if they shoot green screen or anything, they're missing 25% of the color information. So it makes it more difficult to pull a key and everything. But I'll convert them to proxies that are QuickTime movies, which are actually higher res, but they play back faster.
Do you compress? What I do is when I finish a video out of Camtasia, it might be 100 megs, right? Which is really big, for a YouTube video. So I use a program called Handbrakes, and it'll reduce it to like 25 megs. Do you use any compression just to kind of? I have a limited amount of disk space, hard drive disk space, that is. So after I finish my video from Camtasia, I use this Handbrake, which is a free program I may add, and it compresses it almost to nothing. And without the quality, I may add too.
Yeah. I often go the Adobe Media Encoder route, but I do have Handbrake on both my PC and this Mac here, and I have used it and it works great for certain things like that. Yeah, it's a good conversion program, Handbrake. So what a proxy is it's a lower resolution, easier to manage video file that temporarily replaces your high res video file. And then I made this, so I'm not having any problems with it. Then your workflow and shuttling through will be smoother and everything if you make a proxy out of it. Like I said, I make proxies for everything. So where's review on project? Okay. So right
how
here.
How do you make the proxy? Do you export the video at a lower resolution?
Yeah, I'm going to do it right now, actually.
Oh, good.
So I was just looking for that file. So what I did was I wanted to see where this file came from. I don't have my keyboard shortcut set up on this computer, so it's reveal in project, wherever that was. Anyway, so here it is. So I need to make a proxy of this file. And I can do that you can do this both right in After Effects or right in Premiere. You don't have to make them first. Sometimes people do. Sometimes I'll get like that big DirecTV project. The editor, when they sent the footage, they also sent the proxies. So my proxies matched his. So right here on the file, I'm just going to right click on it. And I go down to proxy. And I can say create proxies. And then I can decide what the frame size is going to be. I'm just going to say half. And I can decide what the preset is. There are H.264 ones in here. I stay away from them. I'm just using ProRes. These were good too, but I kind of default to ProRes. Even when I'm on the PC, I just default to ProRes, QuickTime Proxy, a watermark, and then next, and where's it going to go? It'll make wherever this footage came from, it'll make a new folder called proxy and it'll put in there. And you say, okay. And then what it does is it automatically opens Adobe Media Encoder and it renders that proxy file and then attaches it to this file, which we're sort of waiting here. Let's see if it's working. I got too much going on, I think. I can't even see it. Oh, here it comes. So it's doing all this automatically. It's opening Media Encoder and it's gonna make the proxy and put it in the right place and then attach it to this file. So this is probably sort of long, a minute and a half. So it may not finish by the time we end up going, but so what it does is it puts a little indicator here that there's a proxy attached. And then there's a proxy switch that you can add to your control bar right here, toggle proxies, and that'll switch between showing you the proxy and showing you the full res. So unless you're doing a complicated composite or you need to see it in full res or something, you just work with it in there. And then when you render, it automatically does not render the proxies. It only renders the full res video. You can tell it to render the proxies, but generally you don't want. They're just for you to be able to move quickly, while you're working in these tools. That's the end of my notes. Unless I flew by something and it wasn't clear, I'm glad to answer any questions.
No, that was good.
Yeah, these. I know it. I've mentioned this before. I know these tools so well. There's areas where I'm frustrated, but their strengths are just so incredible, really, and the way they tie together, and these are just good tools. But like we just were saying in the beginning, if your computer is 4 or 5 years old, it might be time to get a new one. And I would definitely go and look at these sort of requirements and see and get a feel for what they're saying over here and make sure I can kind of get that work going, or that hardware going to eliminate, slowdowns and frustrations when you're editing and compositing and things. Does that, but I've worked with Photoshop files that are giant too, where I wish the computer, you see that as well too, don't you, Cornelius?
Oh yeah. Photoshop, you can do a lot of layering, and each layer is, a lot of pixels.
Yeah, and then I'm going to blur this layer, and then now I can't even click because there's, yeah. So
John, I'm sorry, go on. I just want to say there's a couple of questions about things you said earlier.
Okay.
At one point you said 420, and we were, Sherry and I are wondering, what is that?
Okay, that's great. So, have you heard of 422?
Nope.
So there's a really usable format called ProRes 422. For example, if I make a commercial, and I'm gonna just talk about this and stop this. If I make a commercial and I need it to air on the TV station, they won't accept MP4s. I can't submit an MP4 to a TV station or Netflix. They won't take it. Right? But they will accept a QuickTime movie that's a ProRes, specifically ProRes 422. What those numbers represent are, there's really 3 components to video. Although After Effects works in RGB, we're not going to talk about that right now, but there's 3 components. It's luminance, and there's 2 color information channels, and those 3 channels combined are what make video. And so the most data you can have adds up to a 4. So the luminance channel has 4. That's all the data you can have to represent the image in luminance, right? In luminance values. You can see video without you don't need any color. You can still see what the video is. But if you don't have luminance, you can't see anything. So that's a 4. And then 422 is the amount of data in the 2 color information channels. And so MP4 is missing half of that. It's actually 420 in terms of how it codes how much data is there in the 3 different video channels. So basically it's missing some of the color information. Now you don't see it, but when you get down into every little pixel and you're trying to where's the edge of this hair and the shoulder, then it matters. But just for your playback version, you wouldn't really see it. But if I'm trying to, isolate or key or work on some edge, yeah, I don't want to, it's like VHS. They don't shoot movies on VHS. Well, they didn't. They shot them on film, not VHS. It ends up distributed on VHS, and it's the same thing today. They shoot on high-end digital cameras. They don't shoot MP4s. They shoot QuickTimes. But when they're going to distribute the finished movie, those are all MP4s.
Yeah.
So that's why
like working in Word and exporting a PDF.
Yeah, or not unlike if you shoot a picture with your camera and you have a RAW and a JPEG.
There was one other question for you. What is a pull key?
What is a what?
A pull key. It was a term you used before. A PULLKEY, pull key.
Oh, I was saying if I'm pulling a key, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like if I have a green screen shot and I'm gonna key out all the green, that's me pulling a key.
Okay.
It's just terminology, and half of that terminology is all from, it's like a clip.
Yeah.
Like video. Why was it called clip? You know why it's called
clipped off? It got clipped off of a strip of film.
Yeah, you got a film clip because you clipped it.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm going to put it in a bin, which is like a metal bin.
Right.
Yeah.
Now a bin is a folder in Premiere Pro.
I like the word, and I use it quite often. It's cut to the chase. So you cut out all of the long, drawn out process and get to the end of the movie where the action is, right? Cut to the chase.
And there's a term that I hate. Fix it in post.
Yeah. It's procrastination, right? Don't deal with it now.
I can't,
fix it later on.
How about we fix it in pre so we don't have to waste 2 days in post? Fix it.
Exactly.
I think if I ever write a memoir, that's what it's going to be called. Fix it in post.
Okay, well, let's cut to the chase here since you wanted to wrap it up at around this time.
Okay. Cool.
I think all of our questions have been answered, and thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. I hope that was meaningful or somebody gets something out of that, or
I think this will be very useful for people. We'll see.
somebody you just gotta brush your teeth.
Yep. And if people want more information about our upcoming programs, they should go to the AustinAdobeUserGroup.com website. And we will have another meeting the second week of June on Thursday at 6 p.m. Central. Yeah. And that's going to be on the new features of Photoshop given by Cornelia Chopin. So
cool. Can't wait.
So